I first dabbled with making my homemade stroganoff in 2014 after reading about it in America's Test Kitchen. Naturally, I started with beef stroganoff, the wildly popular comfort food that originated in Russia and quickly made it to American families' dinner tables. As soon as I published that recipe on the blog, it became a hit. But this got me thinking, why stop at beef? Can you make stroganoff with chicken? The answer is yes, and that is what we're doing today. This chicken stroganoff recipe features everything you love about stroganoff, including the egg noodles and from-scratch stroganoff sauce, but with chicken instead of beef. It also is a great recipe for a weeknight meal as it takes about an hour to prep and cook from start to finish. I also like the fact that it comes together in one pot, which helps us with building flavor and making the cleanup easy later on. As always, I have the link for the full printable recipe along with timestamps below, so feel free to roam around as you like. We'll start with prepping the chicken. I'm using a pound and a half of boneless chicken thighs here, but you can also use chicken breasts. As it is with any meat, in order to get a good brown sear, it is a good idea to dry the chicken as much as you can. You can cook them as a whole or do what I do, cut them into smaller 1 to 2 inch cubes so that you'll have a piece of chicken with every bite. For the seasoning, mix together salt, pepper, garlic powder, and paprika in a small bowl, and sprinkle that mixture over the chicken. Give it a toss. Set that aside and prep the rest of the ingredients. I recommend prepping everything before you start cooking, as the most time-consuming part of this recipe is the chopping and gathering of the ingredients. You will need 1 thinly sliced onion, 3 cloves of minced garlic, 10 ounces of sliced mushrooms. I'm using baby bella, but button mushrooms would also work. 1 teaspoon of fresh thyme leaves, 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, half a cup of dry white wine, 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard, 1 tablespoon of Worcester sauce, 2 cups of chicken stock, 3 cups of egg noodles, half a cup of sour cream, 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice, and salt and pepper. Once everything is ready, start cooking by heating 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil or butter in a large skillet over medium heat. Add in the chicken and sear for 3 to 4 minutes on each side. Here, we're not trying to cook the chicken fully, rather just browning it so that it will be super flavorful. We also want to make sure that we don't overcrowd the pan, so depending on the size of your skillet, you might have to do this in 2 batches, repeating the same process with more oil and searing. Transfer the now semi-cooked chicken into a bowl and set it aside. The pot will be super hot and you will have the bits of chicken pieces at the bottom, and believe me, that's a very good thing. It will help us infuse all the delicious chicken flavors into the sauce. To make the sauce, we will start with melting 2 tablespoons of butter. Add in the sliced onion and saute, scraping the bits and pieces of the chicken at the bottom of the pan for about 5 to 6 minutes or until softened. Stir in the garlic and cook for 30 more seconds. Then we'll add the mushrooms and cook for about 4 to 5 minutes. At this point, mushrooms will release their juices and they will be soft but with a nice bite to them. Sprinkle in the flour and cook, stirring constantly for a minute or so to make sure it is fully cooked. Pour in the wine, Dijon mustard, Worcester sauce, chicken stock, salt and pepper. Give it a nice stir, scraping down the bottom of the pan. Now, as we were shooting the recipe, we forgot to add the thyme in, but this is where you're supposed to be putting that into dish, so just remember to do that. Transfer the reserved chicken back into the skillet and make sure that it is submerged in the liquid. Put the lid on, bring it to a boil, and let it simmer. As it simmers, 2 things will happen. 1, chicken will fully cook, and 2, the stroganoff sauce will thicken. After about 15 minutes or so simmering, stir in the egg noodles and cook until they're nice and soft. Though keep in mind that egg noodles cook faster than your usual pasta. Also, it is helpful to give it a stir a few times to make sure that they are not sticking to one another and cooking evenly. Before we add in the sour cream, we'll add in that thyme we forgot to put in earlier and give it a stir. Then whisk together the sour cream and lemon juice in a small bowl. Off the heat, stir it in the chicken stroganoff. We add the sour cream and lemon juice mixture after it is removed from the heat because they're acidic. If you add them over heat, they might cause the sauce to break and curdle. Also, having your sour cream at room temperature creates a better emulsion than having it at cold. With all this being said, yes, adding the sour cream at the end is a classic move when making stroganoff and helps make the sauce silky with a nice tangy flavor. But if you're watching your calories, you can omit using it. Give it a quick taste and add in more seasoning if necessary. Finally, chop up a handful of fresh parsley and stir that in. I'll finish it off with a little bit more herbs on top and the dinner is served. There you have it, friends, an incredibly delicious and creamy stroganoff with a chicken twist. If you have other questions about ingredients, substitutions, and ideas for what to serve it with, I made sure to answer more questions in the recipe post that I published on my blog, foolproofliving.com. You can find the link in the description below. If you end up making this recipe, be sure to take a picture and tag me on Instagram so that I can see your creations. If you enjoyed this video and learned a thing or two, it would be super helpful if you could hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.